3 months ago, my mother stood up at my grandmother's 80th birthday party, pointed at me in front of more than 100 people, and called me the biggest disappointment our family had ever produced. Everyone laughed. My cousins laughed. My aunts laughed. Even my husband lowered his head and smirked into his drink. I stood there holding a birthday cake I had spent 2 days making, while my mother told everyone I was the daughter who never amounted to anything. What nobody in that room knew was that my mother had spent the last 12 years hiding a secret. And in less than 30 days, that secret was going to destroy everything she had built. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Claire. I'm 42 years old, and this is the story of how the people who treated me like garbage accidentally handed me the evidence that changed my life. Growing up, I was the invisible child. My older sister, Vanessa, was the star. She was beautiful, popular, the kind of girl who could walk into a room and immediately become the center of attention. My mother worshipped her. Honestly, sometimes I think she loved Vanessa more than she loved herself. Everything was about Vanessa. Vanessa's dance competitions, Vanessa's cheerleading, Vanessa's college plans, Vanessa's engagement, Vanessa's wedding. Meanwhile, I was just there. Not hated, not loved, just tolerated. You know what? Being ignored can hurt worse than being hated. At least hate requires effort. I learned that lesson young. When I was 13, I won first place in a statewide science competition. I came home excited. I thought maybe, just maybe, my mother would be proud. She glanced at the trophy and said, "That's nice." Then she spent 20 minutes helping Vanessa choose shoes for a school dance. I should have seen it coming. But kids always believe their parents will eventually notice them. I kept trying. By 18, I had straight A's. Vanessa barely graduated. Guess who got celebrated? Not me. My mother threw Vanessa a huge graduation party. When I received a scholarship to college, my mother forgot to mention it to half the family. That was my life. I stopped expecting anything. And honestly, things got better after that. I moved away, worked hard, built a career in accounting, met a man named Ethan, got married, bought a small house. Nothing fancy, just peaceful. For a while, I thought I'd escaped. Big mistake, because toxic families have a way of pulling you back, especially when money gets involved. The first warning sign came 5 years ago. My grandmother, Evelyn, called me unexpectedly. "Claire," she said, "can you come by?" Her voice sounded strange, worried. I drove over immediately. Grandma Evelyn had always been different from the rest of the family. She listened. She remembered birthdays. She asked questions and actually cared about the answers. When I arrived, she seemed nervous. She kept glancing toward the window. Finally, she lowered her voice. "Your mother has been asking a lot of questions." "About what?" "My bank accounts, property, investments." That didn't sound unusual, except Grandma looked scared. "I don't want her making decisions for me." The statement stuck with me. At the time, I didn't know why. I wish I had. Because 3 months later, Grandma suddenly signed over power of attorney to my mother. Everyone claimed it was her idea. I wasn't so sure. After that, things changed fast. My mother started controlling everything: appointments, bills, property records, visitors, even phone calls. Grandma became isolated. When I complained, Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Mom's helping her." "Are you sure? You're always suspicious." Maybe I was, but something felt wrong. Then came the second clue. A year later, I visited Grandma unexpectedly. Mom wasn't there, neither was Vanessa. Grandma grabbed my wrist the second I walked in. "Don't leave." Her voice trembled. "What happened?" She looked toward the hallway. Then she whispered something I'll never forget. "I didn't sign all those papers." I stared at her. "What papers?" But before she could answer, the front door opened. My mother walked in. Grandma immediately went silent. The fear on her face told me everything. Something was happening. I just didn't know what, yet. Over the next 2 years, Grandma's health declined. The family narrative stayed the same. Mom was sacrificing everything. Mom was the hero. Mom was protecting Grandma. Everyone repeated it. Nobody questioned it. Except me. Then, one night, Ethan surprised me. Not in a good way. I came home early from work. The house was dark. His car was outside. I walked in quietly, and I heard him talking on the phone. At first, I wasn't paying attention. Then I heard my mother's name. I froze. "Don't worry," Ethan said. "Claire still doesn't know." My stomach dropped. "Wait, what?" He laughed. "No, she's never going to figure it out." I couldn't breathe. I stepped into the kitchen. Ethan nearly dropped his phone. His face turned white. "What doesn't Claire know?" The silence was immediate. Terrifying. Ethan ended the call. Nobody spoke. Finally, he said something that made absolutely no sense. "It isn't what you think." Seriously? That's always what guilty people say. I demanded answers. He refused. We fought for hours. And in the end, he packed a bag and left. Just like that. 10 years of marriage. Gone. No explanation. No answers. Nothing. The next morning, I filed for separation. I wasn't going to beg. If he wanted to leave, fine. But now I had questions. A lot of them. Questions that somehow involved my mother. And that scared me more than the failing marriage. Then another strange thing happened. A week later, I received a call from a woman named Teresa. I had never met her. "Do you know Ethan?" My heart sank. "Yes." Long pause. "I'm sorry." Turns out, Teresa had been dating him for nearly a year. She had no idea he was married. No idea. When she found out, she ended things immediately. But before hanging up, she said something unexpected. "Your mother introduced us." I almost dropped the phone. "My mother?" "She told me Ethan was divorced." Everything went silent. The room, the world, my thoughts. Why would my mother help my husband cheat? Why? I couldn't make it make sense. Not yet. But here's the crazy part. Teresa wasn't finished. There's something else. What? I heard them talking about property. Property, that word again. Property, banks, documents, signatures, Grandma. Suddenly, every warning sign started connecting, and for the first time, I realized something terrifying. My marriage might not have been the real target. I might have been. The next week, I hired a private investigator. Not because of Ethan, because of my mother. Trust me, even saying that felt insane. Who investigates their own mother? Apparently, I do. The investigator's name was Jordan, former police detective. Very calm, very thorough. He started digging. 2 weeks later, he called. "Claire." His tone immediately worried me. "What did you find?" "You need to see this in person." Never a good sign. I drove straight to his office. Jordan slid a folder across the desk. Inside were copies of financial records, property transfers, bank statements, corporate filings. At first, none of it made sense. Then I saw a name, Vanessa. Then another, my mother. Then Ethan. All connected, together, for years. I felt sick. What am I looking at? Jordan took a deep breath. Your mother and sister created a company 4 years ago. I stared at him. So? Ethan owns part of it. The room spun. What? Jordan nodded. They've been moving money through it. I couldn't speak. He pointed to another document, then another, then another. The amount kept growing. 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. I felt my hands shaking. Where did the money come from? Jordan looked directly at me. That's the problem. He tapped the final document. The answer was sitting right there, and when I finally read it, I understood why Ethan had run, why my mother was nervous, why my grandmother had been terrified, why nobody wanted me asking questions. Because the money wasn't theirs, not legally, not morally, and maybe not even criminally, but it belonged to someone else, someone they never expected would discover the truth, someone they believed would stay quiet forever. Me. And the document proving it all was dated only 3 weeks before my grandmother's upcoming birthday celebration. The same party where my mother would publicly humiliate me. The same party where she believed she had already won. The same party where she planned to announce something that would change the entire family. What she didn't know was that I now had evidence so explosive it could destroy every lie she'd told for more than a decade. I stared at the papers, then at Jordan, then back at the papers. One question echoed through my mind. If this was bad, how much worse was the part I still hadn't uncovered? And when Jordan opened a second folder and quietly said, "Claire, there's something about your grandmother you need to know," I realized the nightmare was only beginning. The morning after I found the locked file box hidden in my aunt's attic, I couldn't stop shaking. Inside that box were 20 years of bank statements, handwritten notes, and one document that changed everything. A birth certificate. Not mine. My daughter's, Lily's. Only Lily wasn't listed as my daughter. She was listed as my sister. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. No way! Seriously? I checked it again. Then again. Same result. My mother's name was listed as the mother, not mine. I dropped into a chair. For 36 years, I thought I knew every ugly secret in my family. I was wrong. The worst one was still waiting, and somehow it involved me. I called Aunt Denise immediately. "Tell me the truth." Silence. Then a shaky breath. "Oh, God." "You knew." Another silence. Then she started crying. That was answer enough. "I need to hear it." Denise whispered, "When you were 16, you got pregnant." My stomach dropped. "What?" "You don't remember because they sent you away." I almost laughed. It sounded insane. "I was never pregnant." "You were." "No." "Your parents told everyone you had a nervous breakdown." The room spun. I grabbed the edge of the table. Images flashed through my mind. Missing months, a private boarding school, medication, foggy memories, things I had never questioned because I trusted my parents. big mistake. According to Denise, when I was 16, I dated a boy named Evan, my first boyfriend. I remembered him. Sweet, funny, gone after one summer. My parents hated him. They said he was a distraction. Then one day he disappeared. I never heard from him again. Denise explained why. I got pregnant. My parents panicked. Their perfect reputation mattered more than their daughter. They shipped me to a private facility in another state, told everyone I was receiving treatment. When Lily was born, they took her, raised her as their youngest child, my sister, not my daughter. I couldn't breathe. No. I'm sorry. No. I stood up so fast my chair crashed backward. You expect me to believe this? I have proof. The words hit like a truck, because the birth certificate was already sitting in front of me. That night, I didn't sleep. I went through every paper in the file box, every single one. Medical records, hospital bills, letters, photos. Then I found another bombshell, a DNA test, conducted secretly 15 years earlier. The result confirmed I was Lily's biological mother. My hands were numb. I wish I was making this up, but that's not even the worst part. The next morning, I called Lily. She was 20 years old now, smart, kind, the only person in the family who never treated me badly. She answered immediately. Hey? My throat closed. Can we meet? She heard something in my voice. Of course. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. The second she saw my face, she knew something was wrong. What happened? I slid the birth certificate across the table. She looked confused, then pale, then terrified. For a full minute, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "This is fake." I shook my head. No. She looked again, then at me, then at the document, then back at me, and suddenly she started crying. Not little tears, the kind that come from somewhere deep, the kind you can't stop. I reached across the table. She grabbed my hand. "You're my mom?" The word shattered me. I nodded. She sobbed. I sobbed. People stared. I didn't care. Neither did she. 20 years had been stolen from us. Within days, everything began unraveling. More relatives came forward, more witnesses, more secrets. Apparently, half the family knew pieces of the story. Nobody knew everything. Everyone was scared of my parents, especially my father. He controlled money, property, connections. People stayed quiet. Until now. Once the truth started leaking out, everyone wanted to talk. And then came the biggest twist yet. Evan was alive. Not only alive, he'd been searching for me for years. My parents told him I terminated the pregnancy and wanted nothing to do with him. Then they threatened legal action if he contacted me again. For 20 years he believed I rejected him. For 20 years I believed he abandoned me.
All because of lies. One phone call destroyed 2 decades of deception. When we finally spoke, neither of us knew what to say. Hey. Silence. Then, they told me you didn't want me. They told me you left. Another silence. Then both of us started crying. 20 years. Gone. Because 2 people decided they owned our lives. The family reunion was 3 weeks later. the same reunion my parents planned to use to announce their retirement and transfer control of the family business to my brother. Over 300 guests, extended relatives, friends, business partners, everyone. And my parents thought they had already won. They had no idea what was coming. The ballroom was packed. Champagne, music, smiles, fake smiles mostly. I sat quietly near the back, Lily beside me, Evan beside her, my attorney, a private investigator, a stack of documents, and 4 witnesses. The truth was finally ready. My father stepped onto the stage, confident as ever. My family has always stood for honesty. I almost laughed. Seriously? Honesty? The room applauded. Then he announced my brother as the future leader of the company. More applause. Then he looked at me, the same smug expression I'd seen my entire life. My daughter Rebecca has struggled over the years, but family means forgiveness. There it was, another public humiliation, another attempt to paint me as the problem. Only this time I was ready. I stood. The room went silent. My father frowned. "Sit down." "No." His face tightened. "Rebecca." "No." The microphone picked up every word. Every person heard it. Good. I wanted witnesses. I walked toward the stage. My mother looked terrified, for the first time ever. Not angry, scared, because she knew. She knew exactly what I had. I stopped in front of them, then turned toward the crowd. "Does everyone here know my sister Lily?" People nodded. Smiles. Confusion. Then I held up the birth certificate. "She's not my sister." Silence. Absolute silence. My father's face turned white. My mother nearly collapsed. I continued. "She's my daughter." Gasps erupted across the room. The sound was unbelievable, like the entire ballroom lost oxygen. Then came the documents, medical records, DNA tests, witness statements, financial records proving years of cover-ups, everything. One by one, my attorney presented each piece. My investigator confirmed every fact. Witnesses spoke. A nurse, a former employee, even Aunt Denise. The truth poured out for almost an hour. Nobody interrupted. Nobody could. The evidence was overwhelming. Then Lily stepped forward. I'll never forget it. Never. She looked directly at my parents, the people who raised her. Then she said, "You stole my mother." The room broke. People cried, even strangers, because there was nothing left to defend. No excuse, no explanation, no way out. My father tried anyway. Of course he did. He blamed misunderstandings. He blamed circumstances. He blamed everyone except himself. Big mistake. Because then Evan stood up and told his story. The lies, the threats, the years lost. The audience turned on my parents completely. The game was over. Within months, everything collapsed. Investigations began, the board company removed my father, several financial irregularities surfaced, my brother resigned before he could be fired, my parents became social outcasts in the very community they spent decades controlling, and for the first time in their lives, nobody believed them. As for me, life changed. Slowly, painfully, beautifully. Lily and I started therapy together. We couldn't recreate 20 years, but we could build the future. And we did. One dinner, one conversation, one memory at a time. A year later, she called me for the first time and said, "Mom?" Just that. One word. I cried for an hour.
Evan and I never tried to recreate the past. Too much time had passed. But we became friends, real friends, and we finally got the truth we were denied. Sometimes that's enough. 2 years later, Lily graduated college. I sat in the front row. Not hidden, not erased, not ignored. Front row. Exactly where a mother belongs. When they called her name, she looked straight at me and smiled. That smile healed something I thought was broken forever. People always ask if I hate my parents. I don't. Hate takes energy, and they already took enough from me. What I feel is something else. Freedom, because the truth finally caught up to the lie, and once it did, the lie never stood a chance. The family spent 20 years rewriting my story. In the end, all it took was one box, one witness, and one brave young woman willing to say the words nobody else would. You stole my mother. And after that, everything changed.